All right, it's time to talk with our featured guest, Dr. Collin Myrick. Collin, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you so much for having me today, Michael.
Thank you for being here and being available. Can you kick things off by telling us a bit about your practice, who you're serving, and what are some of the unique things you're doing for your patients?
Absolutely. I'd love to. Our practice is in Northwest Florida. Most of my life, I grew up here. Most of my life, this was a really small town. Our practice is in DeFuniak Springs, Florida, called DeFuniak Springs Family Dental. Super small town most of my life. And for some reason, it seems like the rest of the world has found out that this is a little piece of paradise. Our little county, Walton County, is the fastest growing county in the state of Florida. Freeport, which is my actual hometown, is about 25 miles south of here, and it's the fastest growing community in the state of Florida. And we are working on a startup inside that community as well. The practice has changed a lot over the last 4 years, but it's currently a 5-doctor, really 4 full-time doctor schedule, 6 hygiene. We work out of 11 ops, and we're open Monday to Friday. It's a really fun team, and we have a blast taking care of what we like to consider our family. Our community is something that all of us feel connected to. Much of the practice are people who were born and raised here in the area. And as we continue to grow, it seems like that's becoming harder and harder to find. But it's also been such a blessing because I feel like the growth of the community has also increased our opportunity to add amazing A players who made such an impact in the practice. That goes from business admin team members to hygienists to doctors. We've really appreciated just what growth has offered us in the area.
Nice, man. Okay. So then small town, county's growing super fast. I guess it's like a good thing and a bad thing?
For sure. I think if you were over the age of 50, you would probably hate it. And much of our community is the pushback side. But as a young person who grew up here and got to go to Auburn University for undergrad and the University of Texas at Houston for dental school, I got to see progressively larger communities as I made those transitions through education. And Houston was that final resting place that was like, man, there are professional sports teams, there are 5-star restaurants, like there's everything that you can imagine here in one place. All of the best things I thought of civilization existed right there within 20 miles. And something hit me midway through dental school that just said, I think as much as I love this, what I really love is an opportunity to serve the people who I think of as family and home. And what it would look like to be a dentist in a rural market is just so much different. And most of all, realizing that the white sandy beaches of Northwest Florida were pretty much unbeatable. I really wanted to come back to this community and to get to take care of people who had a special place in my heart. It's been really sweet to see this whole journey come to fruition and for us to be able to participate in the health and life of our patients.
I guess you wanted to have practice ownership or you wanted to dive into that in dental school, or was it before that or after that?
I've been addicted to content for a long time. And the first content that I got introduced to was Mark Costas and Dentalpreneur, and then Shared Practices shortly thereafter. And those guys were pushing practice ownership as hard as you possibly could in those days. And everything I was learning was about what does it mean to be a leader? What does it mean to be a practice owner? And what does it mean to build a team? I think I just became addicted to it. And it was so fun to think alongside learning dentistry in dental school, I was learning what it meant to participate in entrepreneurship and leading a team. So whenever I graduated, I was really excited to be a part of a small practice that I knew there was a pretty clear transition strategy. The guy that I bought the practice from, 72 years old, loved this community so much. And it felt like he was holding out for someone like me who could care for the patient population the same way as he had. And he just laid out the red carpet for me to succeed. And then he stayed on for a couple of years to really help with our growth strategy. And it was amazing. So yeah, I give so much credit to Dr. Gary for making all this possible.
Interesting. So then you never did hired dentographics, did a demographic check and everything like that and said, okay, where's the best state, city, county to work in, you know what I mean? For the ratio, the number, you just immediately was like, I don't want to be in a big city metropolitan area. I want to be in the rural area.
I think so often when I look at the demographics issues that we have with underserved populations all throughout the country, one of the biggest challenges that the country and higher education thinks that the more people that you put through dental school, the more dentists you're going to have in underserved communities. It doesn't seem to work out that way. It seems like people either go home or they go metro. It's like metropolitan areas are so attractive to the younger generation that as more and more people graduate, I don't think we're seeing a flock to the rural communities that are underserved. So for me, it was really simple to make that choice. And I feel like if I had run demographics reports, they would have been green lights everywhere. And this area was ripe for opportunity. But that wasn't really my strategy. Like instead, it was more of looking for an opportunity in a place that I wanted to live, just like I think most of my classmates were doing the same thing. And the difference was where they wanted to live was the major metro that was super saturated.
Okay. And so now is your startup open or no?
It'll open in January if construction goes well. It's a big project that's been under construction for a while, but we're hopeful that December is going to be our completion. We'll start seeing patients in January.
Nice. Okay, so we'll dive into that a little bit later. But right now you're working for a practice, you said, has 11 ops, fun team.
So I own this practice and am hopeful for partners in the near future. But yeah, this team is awesome. I recruited one of my best friends from dental school. He and his wife lived in Houston and were both dentists, and they joined us last year. 2 years ago, I had a good friend who I got connected through just the dental community, and he joined us from Kansas City, also some Pennsylvania connections. Like we just connected from all over, and he and his wife moved to this area, and he became just an awesome addition to our practice at that time. He works a 3-day-a-week schedule, and both of the most recent additions, they work 3 to 3.5 days a week. And then we just onboarded another dentist who will start in 2 weeks. Yeah, it'll make number 5 for us.
You own this practice right now, 11 ops, amazing team, and you're deciding to do another practice, a startup.
Yeah.
The reasons for that are mainly what? Is it because you just wanted to do one, or is it you truly maxed out here, or?
We're truly maxed out, but also it was really always a part of the journey for me. Finding this associateship in the practice that I now work at, that we've turned into 11 ops. It was 4 ops whenever I bought the practice, 5 ops when I bought the practice, 4 ops when I started. They added a 5th op for me to come on as an associate. It was in the community, and I'm not sure this resonates with all of your listeners, but in rural communities, it feels like rivalry from one small town to the next. And my mom grew up in this town, DeFuniak, and I grew up in Freeport. My dad was a football coach in Freeport. I played sports all throughout high school at Freeport, and our rival was Walton, the DeFuniak school. And for me to move home and to have this practice in this place that felt like my mom, my grandparents' community, and the rival community, it just never really settled right. And that seems like such a small thing, but it's significant in our journey. And I always wanted to have a practice in my hometown. And I thought before I bought the practice, I was weighing the options of acquire this practice and this be my home, or do a startup at that time. And this was 4 years ago. And Dr. Gary just created such an ideal scenario where it didn't make sense to do anything other than to stay exactly where I was and to build this practice and grow it as I knew it could, and to develop a new location. We moved the practice about 1.5 miles down the road to get to these 11 ops. But all along, I had this itch in the back of my brain that I really wanted to go home to practice dentistry. And if I wanted to truly do that, I needed to go to Freeport. I needed to go to the place that I grew up. So we've always had that vision, my wife and I. And I feel like if I had done it from the very beginning, I would have gone way too small, and we wouldn't have been able to serve the community in the ways that we want to. But fortunately, I got to do this practice in DeFuniak and really get to see it grow and develop leadership skills and some level of business acumen and just an idea of what it means to run a practice. And as a result, it's giving me the guts to take a big swing on the startup. And we're going to build a multi-specialty practice that'll have opportunities for orthodontists and pediatric dentists on the second floor, and for us to have a large footprint general practice on the first floor, to hopefully do some dental education in the future, and to just really have impact in the lives and health of our community, but also in the lives and careers of the dentists that we know and love all throughout the country. It's cool. We're really excited about what we've got going on.
And it's going to be exciting. If we rewind a little bit, how do you know you're truly maxed out?
It's a good question. We run some utilization numbers. I like numbers. That's part of it. Another part is hygiene capacity. Another part is scheduling distance, like how far out people are scheduling. And then the final piece is call volume. And when I project forward, what does our current trajectory look like into the future? It's unsustainable for the team that we have now. And then it's also not suitable for the size practice that we have. Each of our doctors produces well and has a schedule that's probably less than what they would like to do. Like everyone would like to work 4 days a week on our current team. We're all rather young and are hungry to produce and create impact in our families' lives as well. And our hygienists are booked 3 to 4 months out. We have some new patient blocks that are available in the next month, but for the most part, we see 200 to 220 new patients a month. We have 5,200 active patients, and our reappointment rate is in the mid to high 90s. So our opportunity to continue adding patients at this pace is just non-existent. And I think if our community continues to grow, then splitting into 2 locations and having additional chair space will increase our opportunity to continue to say yes to patients. I also would play devil's advocate against myself. I think if we were in a different market and we had the opportunity to extend hours or open on weekends or have a more full schedule on Fridays, then I think that is another avenue to continue growing in our single location. But yeah, I think our community doesn't call for a 60-hour work week or a 60-hour dental schedule that's available. And I think our opportunity to recruit gets harder and harder as we increase our uniqueness of scheduling. Most offices are open Monday to Thursday here in the area. So even that Friday is a really high demand. I think we've scheduled Fridays through the year already. That has really made it clear that additional capacity would be the best way to continue to grow. And we've attempted to expand inside of our physical space to acquire our neighbor. And that's just not really possible at this time either. So a new practice seems like the right next step.
Yeah. Interesting, man. It seems like you kind of also, with your growth, you're taking into consideration your current team that you have, their schedules and all these things. When sometimes I feel like, hey, you're going to grow with us or you're not. And if you're not, we'll find someone else. Talk to me about that mindset. And I know you mentioned you have a fun team. So what does that look like? What's a fun team and what does an A player look like to you?
Yeah, we love our team. Gosh, the culture here is like something that we're kind of ruthless about. We have had team changes in the past, and it's almost always around protecting culture, protecting patient experience. For me, what it looks like for us to have a fun team is that we like to do things together, even outside the practice. This year, we'll hit 1,000 5-star reviews in the next couple weeks, probably. And we're celebrating with a cruise to the Bahamas. So we're pumped about that. Team's going with us. It's a really exciting thing to be able to do that together. We also do like beach bonfires and try to celebrate once a quarter in some way outside the office as a team. And I think that we celebrate each other's wins and are there to hug each other in our losses as well outside the office. And that's made it to where I like to say it's a team. It's not a family. You can't be voted off your family and you can your team, unfortunately, sometimes. But I do feel like we have the kind of team that wants to be here, that wants to be a part of the impact that we have in the community and wants to work together to create a better experience for our patients. An A player to me is someone who sees that as their goal above any daily responsibilities. Like ultimately, the idea of why we're here is to be an instrument for impact in the lives and health of our patients. And I think that you can do that in every single role. You can do that as a front office business administrative team member. You can do that as a dental assistant. You can do that as a sterilization team member, and you can do that as a doctor, especially. So I feel like our A players go above and beyond to serve our team and serve our patients on a daily basis in whatever capacity that they're building their role.
So then what's your team culture? Or if you can give us almost like the mission statement of it.
Our mission statement is a community-minded practice for complete dental health, serving the patients we love through high quality, comfortable care. I don't know if that is really ingrained in our culture as much as our core values are. Servant leadership, spirit of positivity, believers in grace, honesty, accountability, and patient advocacy. I feel like those are the words that really tie in what does it mean to be a team member here at DeFuniak Springs Family Dental. And if you look at any of our team members, I think you see all of those traits. And when those traits aren't exhibited by a team member, I think that's whenever there's an opportunity for coaching. That's whenever there's a moment where we can say, what is it that's holding you back from really demonstrating patient advocacy? What's holding you back from that spirit of positivity? And fortunately, I think we have those conversations very seldom. Our people love the opportunity to take care of others.
So it's been seldom, but you have had them. Has it ever happened where you've had it and then they completely 180 turned around and then they're still with you? Or is it like, oh, we had to let you go because you were still doing stuff?
If you don't embody a core value, it can be a really hard conversation. You're being told like you're not honest. That's a hard thing to say to someone. You're being told you're not a servant leader. You don't have a spirit of positivity. Those are tough words. One of the ways that we've tried to do it is to score 1 out of 5. Tell me where you see yourself as a spirit of positivity, 1 out of 5. And then when our scores don't align, then that's an opportunity for us to say, why is it that you think that you're a 3? Maybe you're a 2, or maybe you're a 1. Typically what happens, someone thinks they're a 5 and they're a 3. There's certainly team members who've had those moments where they thought that they were crushing it in that category and that maybe their direct report or myself didn't think so. And that led to an opportunity to say, let's look in the mirror together. But then there's definitely times where we've used that same tool as a way to prevent a surprise. And my goal is that team members are never surprised by the fact that they're not a good fit and that typically they can coach themselves out more than they need to be coached out on their own. And that's just by demonstrating where we see them in regards to our core values and where they see themselves. And when those two things aren't aligned, if they can't get aligned, then that has to lead to a change.
Walk me through that then. So you're like telling them, hey man, I'm a 5. And then you tell them like in your mind, nah, you're like a 2, bro. Right. And then from that point on, how do you tell them that?
We try really hard amongst all of our leaders in the office to point out problems in the moment that they happen. It's not great to be the bad girlfriend that waits until everything's bubbling over to just dump out all the problems at one time. My goal is that each time that someone falls short in any category, that we're able to, really quickly say, hey, I think this is somewhere we could have been better. I really think that patient's upset. What do you think? And to be able to share in that process with a team member, so that then when you're doing that performance review or when you're doing an after action report, that you're reiterating something that already happened, and hearing someone who says that they're a 5 when you had 2 or 3 instances recently that you've addressed, I think that they typically hear it for themselves. Do you remember when Miss Jones had this happen? Yeah, I do remember that. Okay. What do you think you're doing differently now that makes you a 5 versus where you were 3 days ago? And I think most people can find it under self-discovery. And when they can't, they're usually not a great team fit anyways.
Unless you let them go. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you also mentioned your main focus, the whole team's main focus is to take care of the community, right? You really want to do that. And you guys feel connected to the community. Give me descriptors of that. What does that mean to feel connected to the community as opposed to like maybe the other practice down the street says like, yeah, we're connected to the community too?
Fortunately, there's not a whole lot of other practices down the street. That's one of the things about being in a rural community. There's 6 dentists in DeFuniak and we're 5 of them. That is always a little bit of an unfair advantage that we have versus who you might be talking to in Houston. I like to think about it really from our marketing strategy. I think that's a good way that we think about how we're connected to the community. And I think about it like baseball. There are baseball players who take big swings and their goal is to hit a home run every time. And there's guys who their goal is to get on base. And you can have Hall of Famers who all they did was get on base 3,000 times. Our strategy is to hit lots and lots of singles, those easy opportunities as Google reviews, as a billboard in town that you can't help but see as you drive through, even just the way that we communicate with patients when they call on the phone. All of those things tie into reputation. The next step there is like, all right, every now and then you got to have like a number 3 hitter who his job is to hit doubles. And for us, doubles is like patient experience. You can have a person who has, a mediocre patient experience, and that might be not a very good at bat. Then you'll have others who have a great patient experience, and then they go and tell 3 or 4 others. And that's also what plays into the Google reviews and the community reputation. And each of those other factors, people see us and they associate our brand. But the really cool opportunities are when you can hit home runs. For us, there are some people who their direction for marketing is to spend big bucks and to advertise really well and be really competitive in their market as far as advertising dollars goes. Our goal is to really capitalize on that brand reputation in the coolest of moments. Honestly, this week is like the perfect time for us to have this podcast. But on Friday, we're doing a Give Kids a Smile Day where we're partnered with a local charity, the ADA, and 2 other specialty practices in the area, an orthodontist and an oral surgeon. And we're going to see 200 kids over the course of about 8 hours. It's been publicized really well in our community, and people will definitely associate it with our practice because it's going to be hosted here. And we'll have an awesome opportunity to really impact the lives of these kids aging from less than 12 months all the way up to 17 years old for some. I think that those are the things that really tie in everything. They tie in the Google reviews, the office vibe and aesthetic, the billboards in town, the reputation that we have just in every way with our patients. When they see that come to fruition in the ways of us serving others and really giving back, I think it makes it so much easier to be excited to share who your dentist is. And I think that's the peak of grassroots marketing, is to hit that home run or maybe even grand slam. Like you put players on base everywhere. And then at one moment, like you really get to knock it out of the park, and then use that as your marketing for a year to come.
Nice. Okay, man. I like that. So then how much of your budget goes towards marketing, and how do you decide that?
We spend about $1,800 a month right now. It's a really small percentage. We collect a little over $400,000 a month. It is quite negligible, but I think that What's not measured inside of that is how much time our team spends thinking about what does it look like to create a great patient experience and how do we ask people to share their experience with others. We really love internal referrals and we really love Google reviews. Those are our two things. And our phrase is always like the best way to say thank you for a great experience today is to share this with your friends. And then we always send out an automated text. Most of our ad spend is on billboards. We have 2 billboards in town and I don't know how to measure if they're successful or not. I've always felt like that's just a brand piece and it's just something that allows our practice to stand out in the minds of our community whenever they're thinking about who's the dentist in the area. They think about that billboard they drove by a few times.
Nobody ever comes by and says, hey, because of the billboard.
People say they saw the billboard, but most people are saying, I heard about you from Miss Jones. I heard about you from your Google reviews. I don't think that patients typically tie in their brain that they saw the big blue billboard as they drove through town, and that made them think about looking up a dentist. And in a market like ours, when you look up dentists near me, we're the person that comes up, mainly because of Google reviews, or I guess Google traffic, but also because there's not as much competition. I think if we were advertising Houston's dentist, then maybe 1,000 offices would come up as soon as you search it, and it would be a little bit easier to get lost in traffic. Whereas here, when you have that brand awareness, you're not going to get lost in traffic.
Gotcha. So are there any downsides to being in a rural area?
It's hard to recruit, very hard. I have friends who talk about interviewing 23 candidates for an associate position. I spend a lot of time talking with dentists all over the country about how beautiful our area is, how great the beaches are, and what it would be like if they relocated their family. And that's a much heavier ask than saying you could drive 15 minutes to come and work at our practice instead. The downside is if you're looking to grow with real scale or you're looking to have a large multi-site business, then maybe that would be a real issue of how you consistently onboard more specialty employees, people who have to have higher education degrees. And that can be a burden. And it was for us. Much of our growth has happened in the last 18 months. And that's only because we've gotten really lucky and been fortunate to add some awesome doctors to our group. And that's had crazy impact. That would be my biggest warning to people is that if you are interested in a rural market, just know that your expectations need to be a little different and that your pace of growth won't be because of a limitation from patients. It'll be a limitation on capacity. Like you can only offer as much as you have time.
Gotcha. So the expectations different in what sense? For the associates that you're hiring, for the team members?
If I was a dentist in Birmingham, Alabama, they have UAB Dental School, and I could see 220 new patients a month, I would just buy the biggest building you could ever imagine, knowing that 220 patients a month for the rest of time, if I could actually generate that and confidently say I'm going to continue to see 200 new patients a month, I just need to have as many doctors as possible. And there's going to be doctors for days lining up. Whereas here, there's just not as much opportunity to add hygienists, to add dentists. As you continue to grow, I do think that we could see 200 new patients a month in perpetuity, but I don't think that we would have providers available to see them. I don't think that we have scheduling opportunities. And I know that it's been really challenging for me to bring on dentists to our group and to recruit into this location. I talk to Paul Goodman often about what he's doing with Dentist Job Connect. I think that's an incredible thing that will unlock opportunities for doctors to find practices all over the country. But in my experience to this point, it's been quite a challenge to find home runs as far as providers go. And somehow we've gotten lucky to do it. And I love the guys and girls that I get to work with every day. But I would caution most that I think that we could have had 5 doctors 2 years ago, but there just weren't dentists to be had in our market at that time.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm sure there's some type of agreement that you sign because like what if a doctor does decide to move down, fallout happens, and then they're like, I'm here. My family's here. I'm going to start my own thing up in here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ever cross your mind?
I think in protecting them, that's typically the way I see it. What if we're not a good fit and they chose to pick up their life and be here? That's a really hard ask and a really tough decision to move across the country and then maybe move back or maybe be stuck in a place where you don't have a job now and there might not be a lot of opportunities to do so. We have some language in our agreements. If they were to be terminated at a certain point, like they would be paid out a small amount. That's basically just like relocating expenses. Protection for me, I remember early on hearing someone say that if you could open up across the street and crush us, then I would think we have something that we need to work on. And I have non-compete clauses and contracts, but those are gone now. And I don't have any interest in rewriting them. I think that it's totally fine if someone decided that they wanted to go somewhere else. But my hope is that we deliver a better patient experience more access to a patient population, that an associate would be crazy to not love their job here, because we handle so much of the patient experience on behalf of our doctors that think that this would be the best place to call home as a dental professional. When that doesn't check out, I would love that performance improvement plan that would have to come from someone leaving us. And it's easy to say, but it's a lot harder to actually live that. We've never had a doctor leave, so I don't know what that would be like. And it's only been 4.5 years to this point, but that will be a pivot point for us for sure. It'll be something to learn.
Yeah. Especially if you guys have never had, you started bringing on associates when?
2.5 years ago.
The trajectory started going up, right? You said?
Yep.
So the pricing, or I guess compensation, could you give us a range of like, how does that look like? And like the package. So it's like, oh my gosh, the doctor's like, yeah, we're going to pack up, get everything moved.
I know that all of our docs will probably listen to this, so I'll be responsible with what I share, but we offer a pretty competitive daily base. It ranges depending on experience. Our percentage is usually on the higher end. I've heard of friends who started at 27, 30%. Most of our doctors start between 30 and 33% of adjusted production. And the goal there is that they would really have an opportunity to do a lot of dentistry inside of our practice. And our way of really incentivizing them is incentivizing CE. We offer everyone a $5,000 credit towards their CE to pursue whatever education they're looking for. And then there's opportunities and nice structures that allow them, if there's more that they want to pursue that's in the best interest of the practice, then we'll absolutely support them in that as well. And the thought process being, I want to be confident about our costs on the doctor side, that they're always a profit center for the practice. And then that if they want to earn or produce more, then we give them the skill sets to do that. It's not about getting more, it's about earning it. And I think that every one of our docs does an awesome job of that. They produce super well. And I love hearing their goals on quarterly, yearly basis, hearing where they see themselves and where they want to be. And making that a part of my job is to figure out ways to increase their impact in their patient population and increase ways that they can do more. I think we probably are on the higher side of compensation at those numbers, and you probably have a better feel for it than I do. But in our market, I think that's what it demands for someone to move here. Like, they have to really feel like they're being compensated well.
Definitely. So then if we transition a little bit to your startup now that you're building, did you guys get a loan for that?
Lots of debt on top of debt. Everything I've done is just debt. It's a big load that we carry on a regular basis. But fortunately, as the business continues to grow and as we've seen success in what we've done, it's increased my risk tolerance, increased the bank's tolerance, and we've been able to see what it looks like to continue to push the envelope. Our practice here, when we moved from the 5-op location to this 11-op spot, it was full remodel, built out the whole thing, super awesome office with great technology. And I think that created the patient experience we really wanted. So as we're going into this new market, it's only 25 miles south. A lot of our patients will be better served in that second location. So we're expecting like a 30% attrition rate from the DeFuniak office to the Freeport office. So I think that they'll expect a similar quality, if not more, in the new office. We're looking a little over $5 million in debt on this new location, just to build out land and equipment. I think it's a good idea.
If I can ask, how much was the loan for?
4.6.
4.6. Okay. And then interest was what?
It's an SBA loan. So unfortunately, I'm kind of locked into the interest for a while, but we were at like 7.25 on the first 50%. And then we'll be locked in at 1% above Wall Street Prime at the time that we get our CO. That's looking at 8.5 right now.
All right, man. You're locked in. This is it. So then you got the loan. You did all this right now. You're in construction phase. And then if you don't mind me asking, who's your contractor?
Local guy. Same guy that did our practice here at DeFuniak.
Nice. So I'm sure you're super happy with him, right? You love him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we love him. We go way back.
And throughout this process right now that you're doing this, gutting it, the acquisition you have right now, what's been some of the best companies you've worked with and then some of the worst, or just some of the ones that didn't fit with your thought process?
Awesome question. In the construction side, and even as we've re-geared our current practice, one of the most seamless decisions was going with Dark Horse or our IT side. We want to really be seamless between the two locations, be able to access patient data from our DeFuniak office and the Freeport office and vice versa. And we really want to be able to share that information fluidly. So working with them to set up open dental clinics mode and host in the cloud has just been such a simple decision. I know so many people are looking at all of the cloud-based systems now, and we looked into that a good bit as well. But our stack and systemization is just so well polished around the idea of open dental, Flex, our online scheduling platform, we really like the systems that we have in place, and we don't want to change that just because we're going to multi-location. Instead, we would like to have multi-location accentuate the things that we found as successful here in our first office. So they have really made that awesome. And then I'll give a shout out to Ruben. He worked through our IT plan with me for 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe, and a lot of drafts in just pinning down every site that we need electrical and TVs and computers and Cat 5 drops and just every aspect of the IT side of the practice to make sure that our patient experience was that highest end quality and technology. I'm really pumped to see how that comes together because I don't think I had that vision whenever we did a remodel here. At that time, it was a much simpler practice. It was really me and a part-time 73-year-old, and I was pretty fresh out of school. My clinical skill set was very different at that time. And I think that our opportunity for hiring cases was just so much different. So I didn't have the vision for the kind of patient experience that we have today. And fortunately, this time I have it from the beginning. And I think we're going to create something really special for our patients. I think we're going to be unique, the offerings that we have here in Northwest Florida.
Were you ever looking at other IT solutions, IT services, IT companies, and you're like, okay, I guess we'll go with Dark Horse? And if so, what was the deciding factor for that?
I did look at a couple other companies and never had anything bad to say about any of the larger companies across the country that many people would recognize. I actually started with a local guy, much like our contractor situation. There's a guy 2 doors down here in our old historic community who did most everything in our first office and really helped us set things up well. And about the time that I got introduced to Ruben, just the craziest timing and saddest circumstances, our IT guy developed some health issues that just really changed the game. And we needed to start looking for a transition strategy. And Ruben was like Johnny on the spot, not trying to take advantage of anything, but definitely not letting a crisis go to waste either. He really helped me walk through some tough times with the transition and the things that we were struggling with and just getting answers to questions that I didn't really know to ask. It absolutely kept us going at a time that it probably would have been really easy for us to have to shut down the server issues and a lot of just weird nuances to our IT solution that we had previously. And yeah, that's given me the utmost confidence to continue with him as we continue to build out everything. And I think as we look to scale into the future, I think Dark Horse is the one really simple peace of mind partner that we have that I don't think I have any questions. Whatever we do going forward, we will lean on Dark Horse and their resources to develop a good strategy into the future.
Nice, man. So what were some of those questions that you didn't even know what to ask?
I let our IT company hold almost all of our passwords. Our server was almost inaccessible as we transitioned open in the last year. And I didn't realize that a lot of our backup stuff was tied into our IT company and that I didn't really have direct access to it myself. And I really dropped the ball on what it looks like to lead and manage the business well on the IT side. I just thought it was one of those things that was taken care of. And I think if there hadn't been health issues involved, if our team had been fully available, our previous IT team, I think everything would have just continued to be seamless. And we had, a team member that just happened to be 2 units down in our little commercial space. As those problems developed, I realized that we didn't have access to our email address. Like we didn't have the admin account on our email address. We didn't have the admin account on most of our backup. We didn't have the admin account on a lot of different aspects of the practice, even our security system here in the office. I didn't have the ability to sign in to watch old videos of our security cameras. So every step of the way, I just realized that I had dropped the ball. I had leaned too much on a person who was an awesome advocate for the practice, but just wasn't able to continue in that role. What Dark Horse does is empower me with all that information while also taking it off my plate. I have access to absolutely everything. I control every admin account that's imaginable inside the practice now. And I get reports that show me what does it even mean to have an IT company. And I didn't know that before. And yet at the same time, they take care of everything. It's so seamless.
Nice, man. Okay. I like that a lot. So then throughout this time, I guess from the moment you decided to partner and then own. So today, what's been some of the biggest struggles, fails, or pitfalls that you've experienced?
I think the biggest challenges are when you let people down who were counting on you. Mm-hmm. And that goes for team members, that goes for patients, that goes for the community, that goes especially for yourself. There's so much of business ownership and of dentistry that really is just learn as you go. And so often, I think people wait around until they have what they think is all the answers to the questions before they jump in. I did not have that mindset. Like I had jumped in and I was stepping into a fire day one and I just learned how to put fires out constantly. And now I think I just live in a fire and I don't notice that it's so bad. Like it doesn't feel hot anymore. I'm the frog that got boiled out a long time ago. And the places that I get hurt the most in all of that is when I realized I really did let someone down who was counting on me and that they're right to be upset. And the best thing you can possibly do is just say you're sorry. I have developed a very consistent line of sorries over the last 4.5 years where I just ask for forgiveness and know that most people care about you and want you to succeed and are willing to forgive you when you make mistakes as long as you're willing to own up to it. As hard as it is, it's also the moments where you're most confident on the other side that you're in it for the right reasons.
I like that, man. And so one of the last questions I want to ask you is for anybody like looking to either expand or do a startup or acquisition, what's some advice that you can give us?
I would say find some podcasts that you love. Listen through the whole journey. When you find a person on podcasts that you like listening to, if they love the dental marketer, don't just listen to the episode that makes the most sense for you. Go back and listen to the journey. Listen to conversations that you've had constantly and try to learn more and more from that person because podcasts like really shrinks time. You're getting an opportunity to have a mentor who is available whenever you want them, not whenever they're actually available. You can listen to that podcast in the car or in the shower or on your walk with your dog. And those are opportunities to hear where other people have struggled. I tell friends often that shared practices back in the day when they did the practice underwater podcasts, those were like game changers for me. I was learning about what does it mean for reappointment rate. Now I hear reappointment rate from everyone, but at that time, I didn't even know what that word even meant. And they were just driving home that you can't have a reappointment rate in the 60s. That's not an option. That is a practice that's just going sideways. And as you see those numbers drive up, you'll see practice problems go away. I think that desire to like learn and be hungry for more information was this weird gift that I was given that I think probably makes me a stranger to many people, but it also has made the journey way more fun because I've gotten to learn from other people's mistakes and journeys themselves. And I didn't have to go through all the hard lessons on my own. But yeah, I would also say it's really important to pick the right spot. The path of progress is probably the easiest place to find yourself in life. And that goes for whatever business you happen to be in. In my community, we're growing at 120% a year right now. So as the population continues to grow, if you're a carpenter, a landscape guy, a machinist, or you're a dentist, you just happen to have more people who want your services and need them. I hope that I'm a great dentist. Like I hope I provide an incredible experience for our patients. And I hope that I solve their problems and help them get healthier. But I also know that there are more people who need us than ever. And that opportunity to be available and to continue to meet the demands of our community is the most important aspect of our business development and growth. And as we continue to increase our capacity, the demand will consistently rise to meet it. And that's a really cool place to find yourself. And I would just encourage anyone, you can make it really tough sledding if you choose the wrong place, if your demographics don't make sense, and you can make it the easiest sledding ever. You'll find yourself on a double black diamond skiing just straight downhill if you find yourself in the right spot. And I think life happens to be a lot easier and more fun when you're in the right spot.
Nice, man. I like that. Collin, thank you so much for your time. If anyone has any questions or concerns, where can they reach out to you directly?
You can reach out to me directly, email collinmyrickdds@gmail.com, COLLINMYRICKDDS. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, same as my email. And I would love to connect anytime. We'll get on a call and just talk through your journey and what you got going on. I just love learning from other people. So you'll do more for me than I do for you, I promise.
Nice. So guys, that's going to be in the show notes below. And Collin, thank you so much for being with us. And we'll hear from you soon.
Thank you so much.